Hey, you had me on a freestyle for a second. I was busting my verbs, lady. I'm just being honest, connecting with the Black experience. It's the most just like popular guy, Barry Axius, with the magnificent, le champion, goddess of the universe. Mama, what's going on with you, love? How are you?
Nothing much, Barry. You know what I mean? Still don't make it do what it do.
Oh man, you over there, looking like you chilling. It seems like you looking kind of slim in the face. Seems like your walking is doing some miracles. Talk to me about that. What's been going on with that?
I'm about 25 pounds down now, so I'm feeling pretty good. I really can't see it. Other people can, but I can feel it when I wear my clothes. So that makes me feel. You know how you feel good when you ain't trying to stuff yourself in something.
So basically, what you're saying is that you'll be seeing my thrift store in the next few months, probably.
Yeah, man, you sound like my boyfriend. She's like, I should either be losing weight with you or just get your clothes when you're done. Like
that's always the thing. It's crazy.
What's your store? Y'all back open? I mean, I know it's been for a while, but how?
No. We're back open. We're back open. Again, as we know, you have. Hold on. Let me do something right fast, real quick.
Oh.
We gotta make sure, folks, if you're connecting with us live, please like, please share, please subscribe to Earth Mama Network. Support your Black podcast legitly. You got to make sure we say that. I wanted to make sure that I shared our episode. Hold up. Yeah, so we're back on. We're back in effect. It was 3 hardcore months of just basically, again, making sure we were in the right space and getting prepared for the COVID. But the cool thing about it is we know the COVID, we might be on another lockdown. Right?
Yeah.
How you feeling about that?
Barry, it is what it is. I mean, I'm Black in America. You gotta survive every day in America. See, people talk that surviving shit, but some of us literally been surviving, like waiting our way through. So, for some people, this has not been a bad experience. Not gonna lie. For some people, this gave them a reset button.
Okay.
Some people were able to be in certain meetings and acquire certain things they'd have never got under just the status quo. So I don't know. I mean, I think all the climate, the marches, which have died down, it's just something.
There's still a few.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not like it was before. Nah. So it was like a window of time that, windows open and close.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're on a closing download until the next big thing happens. And so most of us are used to operating in crisis mode, and we don't know how to operate in just living in thriving mode.
Yeah.
So this is going to be kind of interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, because I also know he's talking about, the governor shutting down bars. I don't think that's where people getting COVID from. I don't. Because if you can go and have a bunch of fucking drinks and survive some of the shit that's in that alcohol, I don't know how you going to get COVID at the bar. So I don't know. Somebody can help me out. Maybe it's something I don't know. But some of this damn alcohol is so, COVID, I don't think it can fuck with 80, 90 proof and shit. Like, I could be wrong, Barry.
My thing is, I feel like no, we got an echo here. Get that echo. Can we get the echo?
I don't hear it.
I hear it on my side. No, it's good now. It's gone. These phones, technical difficulties at times, family. You know how we do. I think that for me, your perspective on how this thing went, I feel like it's legit because I found my space creating more in other avenues that I was able to create because I didn't have enough time to create, because you're constantly moving to meetings, serving a good majority of your community, doing the things that we usually do, but it kind of slowed down the process of that. So it kind of created other lanes. So that was dope. But I also believe this whole COVID thing, I and it goes into the topic that we're going to really jump into about the leadership, not only with Black leadership, but just leadership altogether. What's the next, right? Okay, you decided to say everyone could go back outside. And the only reason why they did that was a mere distraction because Niggles was tearing up ish all over the place. And it wasn't just Negroes, I know. It was people, but I just say Niggles was tearing up ish, right? So we had weeks of protesting, weeks of the righteous uprising, and you absolutely heard nothing about COVID. You absolutely heard it was zero conversation about COVID-19. As you said, it simmers down. As we know, there's still some folks out there doing what they're doing. Now you have a skyrocket of COVID to the places that opened up even before the uprising and the protests. So you have a situation where Houston, as I know, my daughter just came back from there. She lives there. She's over here. We don't even know if she's going to be able to go back as quick as she thought she was going to go back, because now you have Houston shutting down. You have Florida shutting down. And these were the two places, and these places that support Trump, that was legitly like, okay, we opening. My thing is, if we were going to open, now that they're putting this new high-end concern on making sure everybody wear masks, why didn't you tell everybody to wear masks when you opened up? That to me is like, it falls on leadership. If you're going to open up, if you felt everybody had to wear masks, it should have been mandatory then. Now they've moved it to being mandatory right now. And I don't necessarily believe masks really stop the COVID from, passing through, because I have one of my soldiers whose son is locked down in San Quentin, and his son got COVID and he had no symptoms. So it's kind of like, well, how do we relate to this now? Is it we get it and then we sit in quarantine for 14 days? For me, I'm just trying to find some sense in something that doesn't make any kind of sense. There hasn't been any real urgency, right, when it comes to the healthcare process. We've talked about the mask process, but we haven't talked about legitimate ways to make sure that, one, COVID is out of being a virus to no longer existent, or two, having something that when you have it, you test positive, you can go to whatever, drugstore or over the counter to a hospital and say, hey, let me get my COVID-19 medicine or whatever, and I'll be done. I just don't know where we're going with it. Are we just going to shut down the economy again? Are we going to shut down businesses? Because that didn't work. You know what I mean? So what are we doing with this? I'm lost and confused by it all. Because it's like, I don't want to get it, but is it getting it a real death sentence? Is it like, there's a lot of people that we don't talk about by the masses that legitly get COVID and they quarantine for 14 days or whatever they do, and then they're okay. They get tested again and they no longer have COVID. So I'm at the point, I don't know what to believe. And I'm not going to sit there and say, I don't believe it exists, because I believe there's something that does exist, but I don't know the severity. I'm lost for words. It's frustrating because all I do know, how they treat it as it's the AIDS virus, and that you're condemned if you get it, and that we really can't operate without this virus being in our world. Like, we literally have to stop. Like, okay, COVID happening, everything must be shut down immediately. And I don't know if that really works. I don't think it works in America that's fueled off of cheap labor, fueled off of capitalism, fueled off of utilizing and using people. I just don't see it working.
Well, Barry, I wonder what would happen if so-called leaders said to the rest of the people, I don't have the answer. What would we do?
That's interesting.
If they say, we really don't have the answer. If they say, we thought maybe this thing only survived in the cold, and when we told y'all that, we didn't know it survived in the heat. What would people do? I That's why I'm not into leading people, because folks have to have the answer right and exact. Instead of saying, you know, I don't know, we're figuring this out, we don't know. Humans would lose their goddamn mind.
So what you're saying is you feel because we're so used to, even if it's the wrong answer, even if it's an answer that sways us the opposite direction, even if it's wrong, we're going to have to give some kind of answer.
Right. Because here's the thing. I find people telling us stuff that we should already know, like wash your goddamn hands. Cover your mouth.
About this. I saw people, I still too, I was just at a shopping center. Someone literally, I was washing my hands first, and you know, with the 6 feet thing, they just legitimately take away one of the washers depending on how many rooms they have, right? They took away one, and the person didn't want to wait. They literally pissed and walked out without washing their hands.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like real we think it's basic stuff, like in terms of the common sense things that you do that to protect yourself just on the very basic of levels. I find that a lot of human beings don't even want to do that. You know what I'm saying? So let alone some instruction about like, hey, you know, if you do go out, cover your mouth, or, you know, just basic stuff you would know. That would help us so much. But a lot of people, Barry, don't know those basic things. You know, we be protesting on the silliest of shit. Like those people who were protesting down at the Capitol about not being able to go outside. Like, why are we protesting about that?
It's like, they will just go outside.
Yeah, that's what I said. Just go outside. Like,
exactly. Just go outside. Like, don't make it a big deal. Go outside, because people were going outside.
Anyway.
I think that I hear you on that, because like that would be kind of crazy if someone really came out and said, we don't really know what the hell's going on. We don't even really know what we're doing. Because to me, that would be more legit than every other day. It goes from, you get it from a nail salon. You get it from being too close to each other, 6 feet. Now be 12 feet. Gloves. No, let's all have to have masks. No, you got to have this kind of mask. You know what I'm saying? Let's go ahead and get the protected shield.
Sometimes I can't breathe in those masks, Barry. Sometimes I cannot breathe. I struggle with my breathing. I'd be like, it's like I feel like I'm claustrophobic. You know what I mean? Like, whew. And
isn't it? And then psychologically, what is it really doing to us? You know, for our mental health. Right. Watching a whole bunch of doctors walking around here. You don't even know if they're doctors or a motherfucker about to rob you. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's just it's like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you know, you gonna rob me or you gonna check my temperature? Which one is it? So to me, I'm perplexed. I don't really understand it. I really don't feel it. I'm lost at this particular point. You know, I believe I had the COVID during the early stages of it when it was towards December, early January. I was real sick. Again, you know, they're saying our hospitals are like overloaded, but at the particular time when I was going to hospitals just for some other work that I was doing, hospitals was very empty, and I went to a lot of hospitals, so I saw that. So I don't know what to believe. I don't know if masks are really deterring us from, you know, getting it, or if this whole mask thing is a deal that government officials made with certain, because at one particular time you couldn't find masks, right? Remember, there was one particular time you couldn't find masks, and people had to be creative and create their own masks. And you know, we don't know if that's legitly a contract that the government created or has with some kind of mask company that forces us to have so many masks out there because they got to meet a quota. I don't know what to believe. I would love to hear from our people, because I'm at this particular point. I'm not going to argue with folks and yell at folks about not having a mask. I think that's stupid. But I'm also not going to argue and yell at folks for having masks. What I do think is stupid, when a person is driving in a car by themselves and they're wearing a mask. I don't have any idea or reason why a person by themselves driving in a car has a mask, but maybe, you know, they think they're going to get the coronavirus in their car. I have no clue. But this to me is something that I would hope ends soon, because it's screwing up a lot of the stuff that I feel, you know, moving forward we want to do. And I feel that it impedes too much of our lives we've watched America do this. With 9/11, what happened is our privacy ended. Even though we were always being looked upon and we were being watched, it was now legitimate because they said we have terrorists that live in our country, and we need to do like what the Patriots Act and all these other different things that made them pry more into our lives. I don't like that part. I hate that part, and I just know America being what America has been in the history of America, in its scandalous history, that we have oftentimes been played pretending and thinking that certain things were legit, and then come to find out years later it's not at all.
That's real talk. I agree. I totally agree. I do think that the American people are going to have to think a little more and stop being such fishy, swimming, together and not thinking. I look at leadership and I just think we don't really have real leadership the way we think of it as. We'll talk about Nazi Germany and Hitler and stuff like that, but some of us are just following suit, just like those people. Never questioning stuff, not using your brain, not doing things for yourself. Some of us come out of this whole thing of being very needy, like somebody has to fix you, but you are the first person that can fix you. Secure where you are. Make sure your kids are where they are. Like I think with this quarantine, people having to look at their kids' homework, that was a good thing. You just couldn't put that on the teacher. Now you even if you struggle with reading, there was help there, but you had to come to the table with whatever you had. So you had to get past this whole thing of like it's the them, because you became the them to your children.
Yeah.
So there's always pros and cons to things like this, but I also think it is your best opportunity. It's the opportunity that you always claimed you didn't have that now you do have. Because now you have to deliver it for yourself. You have to deliver it for yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you can't even like get mad at nobody. You just have to like do the best you can. We have a lot of resources, Barry, believe it or not. We really do, but that means you have to get out there. It's kind of like being in the game. You just don't sit and think people are gonna come to you for product. You get your ass out there and let people know you got product. So you have to do that in real life. You have to get out there. There should be, back in the day, you got you and your neighbor kids together and y'all did some little things. Y'all better start doing that again. You know what I mean? This is the name of the game, because I think what we're learning in this process is that who we thought we had as leaders, we don't. Because the leader is truly yourself.
Yeah.
Like nobody can change your reality but you.
But I also think that, when we look at it, I mean, I think that's it's a very touchy subject, right? When you talk about it, for those who do the work of research, in height of some of the so-called leaders that we've had in the past, I think the biggest thing that the misconception, I believe, is that a lot of these folks believed that every person that has been put to us in for forefront are considered leaders really weren't even leaders, right? Like, you know what I mean? They're leaders now because history has said that they were, a powerful figure, male or female, in that moment. But I don't think that there was this preference of, hey, I'm your leader. And I think that's what made their leadership in the days of now to then was so profound, because it wasn't necessarily, it was more of what you were like. Lead yourself. It's about direction that I'm giving on how we should be led, right? Where now I think that we fall into this place where folks have more value in the word leader, in the word leadership, in reality don't have any idea what that looks like and what that means, right? And I think for me, looking at what it is now, when you look from the top of the ceiling of our American leadership, right, that governs the American body, it's an absolute joke. But at the same time, for us, we may be laughing and giggling like this is the dumbest mother effer around. But for some, like, the white folks that feel empowered, they're like, this is the greatest leader of all time. You know what I'm saying? And that way, where some would say Hitler was legitly the worst leader ever, objectively looking at it, he may not really be. He might be one of the greatest leaders. And it's not where the things he did wasn't negative, but for those who are looking at it as far as leadership standards, I mean, he has to go down as one of the greatest leaders of all time, because who could have really mesmerized and created that type of a genocide against the people, and folks really were into it. And to this day, when you see a leader like that, and I know folks are like, Hitler? Listen what I'm saying, folks. I don't grab what I'm saying and be like, Hitler. I know what you know what I'm saying, but the reality, a leader's influence, it reaches, it spreads throughout time. And I think that when you look at that, there's still folks following in the regime of Hitler's leadership to this day, and he's dead and he's gone. He still has a residue. And I feel like we look at it, I think that's what symbolically puts folks in this leadership position nowadays. It's like, well, what's the residue? What's the legacy? And I don't think that nowadays we have folks that really step in those standards, right? They don't necessarily. The leader in 2020 now, currently, is more or less, to me, in the moment, clout chasing, trying to be legitimate but are illegitimate, and fall into areas where, yes, leadership comes in all different shapes, forms, and fashions, but more so less than often, it's more tragic moments that break them into leadership, not moments of seeing something like when you saw the Panthers get together and say something is wrong, let's kind of have preventive measures, but leaders are now pointed and self-proclaimed when there's a bunch of media that is covering their tragedy, and that's tragic. Or they illegitimately try to say, well, I am this person, and we don't do the homework. Well, I'm not saying you and me, but a majority don't do the homework. They just see a person that's speaking poetically at that moment, but don't really know who that person is. And then all of a sudden they become some leader. But then when you check their background, that leader ain't did shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the first time on the job. And I think from back in the day to now, when you saw leadership, it had a lot more principle, integrity, and leaders were ordained by the people, and it was because they did the work, right? They did the work. It wasn't, you're my leader because you got elected. No, what is your principles and standings? And that doesn't always mean like that makes them legit, but I think that I can't look at black leadership and call them black leaders and they don't fuck with black people.
Right. No, real talk, Barry, real talk.
I mean, sis, like, there are some people that are self-proclaimed leaders of black people and don't deal with black people at all. Right? Like the people that we're talking about, because the majority of the time when we're talking about black issues, right, we are talking about a small fragment group of black people that are always continually oppressed. Because in reality, let's be very clear, you and I are oppressed, but we're not oppressed in a way that some folks in the black community are oppressed. We don't necessarily live in a black community, right? We have black people in our community, but it's not a centered black community if there's a thing called the black community.
Right, that's so true.
If there's a thing. So you and I make sure our work reflects not only the people outside, but also the people inside. So our relationship with black people is legit because we really talk for black people on all walks, shapes, forms, and fashions. But here's a part that's a flip. A lot of the so-called self-proclaimed leaders that are all gung-ho for black people would shoo them off, and they don't even have a legit connection. Yeah, right. Like, they don't even show up. They talk. They're good. There's great talking points. They reflect on the struggle. But black people would look at them like, "Are you serious? Like, are you like you don't talk for me?" Because there's not a real true connection. And I think that a lot of the times we get swayed by good talk, a tragedy, or someone that's so informed to the point they're uninformed on what's really going on in our communities.
I like the way you put that, Barry. I like the way you put that.
Like that was good for you?
You know why? Because it made a lot of sense. I think so. I'm thinking back. Sometimes I'll see people show up and they'll be acting like they're talking for Black people, and I've never seen this person before in my life. I've been in Sacramento since 1982. First got it from the East Coast. I've never seen this person. And then it's kind of like you can tell we don't read history, because if you look at the Panthers or the Nation or any time there was a Black movement, even back to the Garvey movement, there's always been infiltrators. And because their system works so well, they always come the same way. They just show up. And then they talk like, because Black people, we don't necessarily have a sense of we're together. So they just kind of show up, and their job is to cause chaos.
Yeah.
And instead of us checking them and be like, ho, who the fuck is you?
Yeah.
Back in the day, they be, hold up. We just act like the person has the right to talk because they Black. It's like, no, you don't. I don't really, all your skin folks ain't your kin folks. So you can't show up in here and I don't know who you are. You just can't roll up in here and get the saying stuff. Somebody told me a story once of in LA how they was having a meeting. This is like back in the 80s, I guess, early 80s. And this dude came in, I guess he was new to the city. He tried to come in talking some shit. And the elder set his ass down like, hold on. First of all, who the hell are you? Yeah. 2, sit down and learn something because you just got here. You know, like she like basically set his ass down. And so I think sometimes we don't do that. So when I see people coming in to push an agenda, it's like, first of all, know what's going on with Black people. Because the last thing that's going on with us is who we fucking. Don't nobody give a fuck about that. Let's just be honest. Don't nobody care about that. I care about how you treat Black people, you know, how we interact with each other or respect. I don't really give a damn about if you think you're a lamppost. I don't give a damn. Yeah. You know, just show up and be. Special treatment shit, I don't do. Yeah. You know, get in where you fit in. That's like when you're in the Black family. When you get there, you just pull your ass up to the table. You don't get no special high chair. Just sit your ass down unless you need some phone books so you can reach the table. That's different. But I think sometimes because we're not organized as a community, anybody just comes in and tells us where we should be. You looking like, fool, where are you? And who are you? Where the hell did you come from? Who is your people? You look kind of strange, Negro. You don't even like a Negro that we even would know.
Facts.
You know? But hey, you can do that with Black folks. You can just roll up in there and tell people that you Black today.
Yeah, and you're Black today and you won't be Black tomorrow. And I to me, like, we found ourselves, right, legitly into this idea that entertainers, right, athletes, you know what I'm saying? Like, before because, you know, we grew up in a great olden age and golden age. It's olden age, but now it's a golden age of hip hop, right? And for some of the folks that are on, they'll understand what we preference. If you weren't being taught it in the schools or in your households, hip hop used to be the teacher of prolific history of how we got where, leadership, the continent that we come from. Like, legitly, you can get all of your ideology from hip hop, from the names. It would even let you know from the names like Rakim, Nas, you know what I'm saying? Those names, you know, you got Professor, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it's all these different things. Hip hop generated the idea of, wow, embracing culture, right? Finding who we were legitly. But then came a point to where that got dumbed down, right? And no longer were those prolific challengers of the system and the treatment of Black people, as well as how Black people treated each other. They no longer existed. They were now a part of the status quo. They were now a part of the machine, because, again, with the great leadership, if you have it, they wouldn't allow, you know, good white folks who legitimately wanted to commercialize the music to keep a fragment of the knowledge away from us, but allow the fuckery to be displayed, because they knew the entertainment value of our music would dumb us down. We didn't have great gatekeepers that really saw the mirror and saw the vision of, oh my God, if we allow too many guests in the house, it will dumb down our line of thinking. Really, legitly, this idea of you being mainstream and then you continuing to control your own created the switch for hip hop, because it was more independent like labels compared to what they were mainstream. Remember, hip hop wasn't even being looked upon by white mainstream because it was like, it's too raunchy, it's too graphic, it's too legit, it's too righteous, and it's too powerful. It's black empowerment, right? It's black and I'm proud in a different way where the youth at that particular time can really relate to it. So they wasn't really enforcing it until they was able to enforce Negroes to leave ownership and come get owned. That's how it stopped. But I feel like when you look at leadership, our leadership was downgraded by people that were professing to want to be accepted by white folks, where that's how hip hop took us to a place now where we can't stop hearing about murder, murder, ho, ho, BB, I'm going to shoot up the block and I'm going to do a whole bunch of drugs. And I feel like once upon a time when we had strong leadership in those values, those guys never ever said, I am this. They knew their role and they knew what they had to do legitimately to make sure they lifted up leadership. Like you talk about Khalid Muhammad's and all that, you got to talk about all the Farrakhan's, and you talk about the sister soldiers of the world. You talk about all those folks, to level them up, but not be on the forefront because that wasn't their lane. But we're going to level them up, where now entertainers take this front word, I am who I am, and I am this leader. You need to look into me. You need to hear what I'm saying. And that shit don't even sound legit to me. It's like, wait a minute, hold up. Your messages are mishandled, because one minute you're telling me this, and the next minute you're sitting there, for instance, supporting like a Bernie Sanders. You know what I'm saying? But you're talking about black independence, where I believe, like, how can we have legit leadership in these entertainment capsules if they're not talking about black political parties, if they're not talking about ownership, they're not talking about separation and creating our own. They're still kind of talking in a way word of, yeah, we got to boycott, but in reality, we're not gonna really boycott. I'm gonna have you Negroes boycott, and I'm gonna go broker a deal with the same place that we said we're gonna boycott. Right? You know what I'm saying? Now I'm on their racial equity team. Oh, well, now I am on the NFL staff, and I'm gonna tell folks that we're past kneeling. I'm gonna make it legit. And I think that's kind of been the main thing that has broken down our leadership. Not only do we have illegitimate leaders that come from the ground level, but we have entertainers that have become the forefront of leadership. And it doesn't make any sense because they have a role they have to play. And I'm not saying that they don't have great ideas, and some of them are so profound in their entrepreneur spirit in building. But I feel like a lot of our entertainers have left us astray and moved us into a different direction that legitimately has not supported the black empowerment movement that we should have always been on. We should have never left. I mean, we have legitimate leadership that has created this idea for us that Black lives matter more than our black empowerment, you know, our black economics. And one minute they'll support a black man, or mostly a black man, because they don't really support black women dying like that, a black man dying, but then have a whole different organization stance when it comes to black men. So it's almost kind of like, you know, we're being left astray, right, by political entities that say that they are leaders, and I don't really believe that they're really legit.
Yeah, you're right on. I think it absolutely don't make sense to us, Barry, but to our enemy, it makes absolute sense. Because most black leaders are more interested in integrating white supremacy than it is integrating you into your own freedom.
So you're basically saying that they want to be just comfortable in white supremacy and that whole thing.
Themselves without white people. They can't see themselves without the white power structure. They cannot. They want us to be integrated into white supremacy. They want us to be integrated into anti-blackness. They want us to be integrated into depending on white people for everything, even your air.
So you think that you really believe that nowadays leaders are more or less black leadership? Let's talk about that real quick. That black leaders more to them being at the table instead of having their own table, being accepted by, the white, establishment is more important than legitly separating and creating our own.
Oh, yes. Because when you create your own, that requires work. It requires courage, tenacity. It requires you to look at yourself, to correct yourself. But when you're with white people, you can blame them for everything, and you don't have to. You can be like, I can't do this because of white supremacy. I can't pick up my boots because of white supremacy. I can't take a bath because of white supremacy. I cannot be responsible for me killing my own people because of white supremacy. Like, they become like your parent. Like, everything you do in life, you blame on them. So it makes it look like maybe they're the humans and we're the products. Not all of us, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Personal. But if it's a truth, it's a truth. And you know that a lot of this shit don't make no sense. We have just as much technology as they do. We're so powerful that even when we gather together, people have to stop and look at us. And we don't even be doing shit, but just standing.
Yeah.
People come like, oh, it's too many of them together. It's too, that's how powerful you are.
Yeah.
But you want to take all of your people and hand deliver them to the white supremacists. Because you can't even see yourself as being a free human being. See, Barry, I can live in a world and not see another white person and I would be okay.
You think so?
Oh, definitely. Shit, but in Africa, you're going to do that. Think about it. There are what other groups have that we don't have is that they can live amongst each other and be fine. Not to say their life is perfect, but they would be fine. You know what I mean? We are like this unique group. And I'm not even talking about Africans from the continent. I'm talking about those of us who are out here in this diaspora who always have to measure ourselves by white people. There is a sickness in that when you do that. That's like me keep measuring myself by you, but if all I gotta do is measure myself by me, I'd be good. Like Barry make his greens like that, I make my greens like this. It don't mean that your greens is better than mine. It means that that's the way you make your goddamn greens. For some reason, we have to always hang while we can't do shit on somebody else's shit. That's why I love it when kids be like, I'm doing me. I'm gonna be responsible for myself. I'll be like, you know what? You're gonna go a long way.
Yeah.
Because most of the times I know adults who blame other people for why they didn't take care of their kids or why they didn't sweep up in front of their damn house or why they couldn't walk their babies down the street to the park. You know what I mean? And let them run around and bring them back. Like there's always a reason, that you got to do things. And I said to myself, what if they brought slavery back and your ass had to be in the field all day?
Ooh.
Does that mean you would be more productive under slavery than you would, with your own free will?
But here's the thing about it. They do it with prisons right now. A nigga, they got the niggas up in there in prison and, we're constantly bombarded, right, with that prison mentality that niggas go in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Hold on a second. I want to see the sister, what she's saying. Yeah. Okay, nowadays, these folks that are out here protesting and showing up in their faces, we're definitely creating or manifesting our own everything. We're not asking white folks for anything. 400 plus years later,
Yeah, no, you're really asking. I love the feeling of what we think is liberation. I love it. And I feel what she's saying. Because in the game, you gotta basically tell yourself that. But I know that we're asking because if you was taking some shit, all of that would be burnt down.
Yeah, and
if you was taking some shit, you would be governing your own neighborhoods.
And it's my thing also, and this is why we're talking about it.
I feel
because what Shy's saying, and we appreciate Shy, that's great things. But I think that the reality, right? Niggas have always protested. You know what I'm saying? Like, niggas have always protested. Like, that's been what we've been. You know what I mean? Now, and we can agree to disagree on that, but that's why you have to also understand history, right? Yep. You have to also understand where we are here coming from and where we've gotten now. Now, here's the first problem with that. If a Negro to me is serious, you're never going to even speak and say Black Lives Matter. That will not be the rally cry for a person that's ready to take ownership. We cannot legitimately really believe that us screaming Black Lives Matter or us saying we can't breathe when we should be saying, if you're going to say we can't breathe again. We can't keep breathing because legitimately Eric Gardner got choked out in 2014. You know what I'm saying? So this ain't nothing new that we saw with George Floyd. And the reality is that we've had a more in our ancestors' time, way more of aggressive stance. Because niggas forget that the Watts riots happened. Niggas forget that the Detroit riots happened. Niggas forget that the 1919 Red Summer. We forget the constant fights that was happening during the Black Wall Street. Like, niggas have always fought for our own. Yeah. I'm saying now that because with the leadership that we have currently, it's moved us away from us thinking about ownership, because reality is when you're thinking about ownership, before you're asking someone to give you a piece of the pie, you're making your own pie by yourself. And I believe that in the times where we were, the only part that they messed up on was legitimately what I believe to be the fatality, right, of the movement was integrating, right? Because Black people had their own. The problem was us having our own during that time. Like, it seemed like white folks would not be okay with us having our own. That was when Black people was minding their own business, right? Remember, there was niggas doing their own thing in their own cities, their own communities. And here we are, right, being attacked because of jealousy and envy because of white folks. Or when niggas would go show up in a all-white town, I'm just trying to pass through, a nigga couldn't even just relax and sit down and just have a milkshake, you know what I'm saying, without being harassed and brutalized. The reality for Black people in the times that they lived in compared to now, that this racism looked differently, where it was totally right in front of you, where this racism now is all behind you, right in front of you. And if it's right in front of you, it's right in front of you with people that don't necessarily matter. And it's in the back of you with people that are creating the laws to keep you oppressed. So the simple fact, if we do research, right, if we do real studying, and I think that's what I hate about self-proclaimed leaders. Do you Negroes study? Do you Negroes really believe a lot of the times that everything started with you, or you just want, the ignorance of Black people in a sense of not doing research or not studying the way or not learning it in these public school systems that we are all indoctrinated in, that they don't know prior history to? Everything that's happening, it was very necessary, but it's not anything new. The only problem now, what we have to decide is, are we going to allow, because to me, when white people start accepting the notion of Black lives, I get worried. When I start watching them do all these symbolic gestures of progress, I'm like, oh, y'all, we gotta switch up something, because that's making them believe in their mind, let me appease these Negroes, because that's what we've done in the past. We've appeased them. We said, okay, you know what? Let's integrate. We're going to integrate y'all. Y'all can go to our schools. You can piss in the same bathroom. You don't got to go to the one outside. Let me integrate you. But the reality of our integration, that means I'm going to separate you from your culture. I'm going to divide you from your businesses. I'm going to move your communities. And now I'm going to go into your communities and I'm going to put some drugs in it. I'm going to take all of the best out of your community and leave it drug-ridden, crime-ridden, and be okay with it, because you Negroes going to have to leave. Think about how they did it. They would leave downtown areas because there were too many of us. Then they would gentrify it to bring us out and push us out in the suburbs, right? And then when they want to get back their suburbs, they'd be like, we're going to gentrify that and push you niggas out to a different freaking city or county. That's what they're doing right now. Downtown in Sacramento, just looking at that, they didn't care about. Downtown was a ghost town 10 years ago. 10 years ago, downtown was a legit ghost town. Now it is a place to be. And that's all by design. And I think that we have to realize that after protesting, we have to build, and we have to build legitimately. All we can do from these and get from these people is what we're owed. We can't expect them to do nothing else. And even if they do that, we get what is owed, and then we operate on building our own. And I feel like when we operate on building our own, separating in a way where they now have to legitimately feel the pressure of us separating. I mean, taking all our Tiny Tim talented folks and now making sure they pay top dollar, not just give it to Eddie Murphy because Eddie Murphy is a Negro of the Year, or give it to LeBron James because he's a Negro of the Year. But I'm talking about all of us legitly, not picking and choosing. But if they want us, they have to have all of us, not picking and choosing one. I think that's when we gain our power. But this idea is going to believe that you are everything. Hold on. Everything that we are is everything that we were. And if we don't change up some of the routines, if we keep on saying Black Lives Matter, and create this idea that it's not economic justice that we're searching for, if we're not creating this idea that we want our own shit and we're okay with doing our own shit, we're okay with policing our own selves, governing ourselves, we're going to be right back in the smack of the middle of this shit, crying and screaming and begging these motherfuckers to just see us as human beings when we should see each other as human beings in the first place. And I think that what it gets lost in all this stuff is, do you understand that we are their parents? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are our fucking children.
You better say that, Barry.
These are our children. So how the fuck are we begging our children to let us back in the house? You know what? Check this out. Cool. Keep that mother effer, just like a divorce, because we've been in a domestic violence relationship with white folks forever, just like a divorce. Sometimes you divorce people and you got to let go of certain things and just create it your own way, right? But I still think that folks have to understand, once upon a time, niggas was shooting at the police. Like literally, legitimately, niggas having gunfights with the police. That's not happening now. You know what I'm saying? That's not happening right now. Like, for instance, Ken and Karen. You see that St. Louis family? I don't know if there was they were part of the government body in St. Louis, but did you see that picture with Ken and Karen? They came out with the guns. One had like a AK or some, and Karen had the little gun, the little pistol. Yeah.
Okay.
They came out, protesters was walking through their spot. You know what I'm saying? They was walking through their spot. Hold on. I agree. The question is, how do we do it as collective? I'm going to get to the collective in a second, Queen. Hold on a second. They were walking through the spot in St. Louis, right? They came out with their guns, right? Back in the day, them people would have came out with them guns, and it would have been a crowd of Negroes who were already packing themselves, and there would have been a gunfight. You know what I'm saying? There would have been a gunfight. What folks have to understand, the reason why they don't teach you about the many slave rebellions that happened on a continuum, is that Negroes would have broke that idea and that curse of thinking that all we were was good slaves, right? Because in American history, they try to create the idea that slavery was a good option for us, right? They give us forefathers as if these slave owners, these pedophiles, these rapists were actually people that legitimately had nothing to do with enslavement, but were trying to be the good white folks that were empowering this country. That's all false. Why do you think they're not going to tell you about a whole bunch of slave rebellions? Well, because why would you want niggas to have uprisings? That's why they don't talk about the Haitian revolt. They don't ever talk about the Haitian Revolution like that. They glim it through in history books because they don't want you to be empowered. These are the reasons why. So niggas have always fought back. This is nothing new. It's new to Negroes that are now paying attention, because a lot of this stuff, again, that's why I feel this leadership is all over the place, because they don't ever allow themselves to create. Okay, yes. Thank you, Queen. Yep, the white married couple who have.
I seen that video
Thank you.
this morning.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I seen it this morning.
you know, that they want to believe that we've never fought as hard as we're fighting right now, but we fought even harder, because what folks have to understand that once upon a time they didn't accept us at all. Now they've truly accepted us in a way, but the naiveness of some black people think that sometimes that white folks, right, have accepted us all. They've only accepted a little majority of us. They've accepted a nigga who can earn. That's either in prison, jail, or an entertainment value, whether it's an actor, rapper, or athlete, or, you know what I'm saying, the Negro that's going to just be the workhorse at some corporation, right? He's going to fit the diversity pile and be like, okay, he's working and she's working, and, you know, they're just great uppity white black folk that are just here, and they always will fit the status quo of our branch, saying, you know what, well, we do have diversity, and you have like 4 Latinos, 5 Asian, a bunch of white people, and that one black person. You know what I'm saying? Like, they fit that status quo. So the reality of what we're in right now, it's truly an awakening for those who've been asleep for so long, but this is nothing new. This is nothing that is so out of the ordinary. The only thing that's out of the ordinary is social media has allowed us to be more in tune, to be able to connect the dots. And don't get it twisted. If you really believe there wasn't slave rebellions happening state to state, damn near almost on any given Sunday, like it was the uprising that we just saw, you ain't doing your research. You're not really going deep. And my thing with leadership for today is, stop calling out folks that have been leveled to leadership and have other things to do besides just protest, have other things to do besides just focus on one problem. It's multiple problems and multiple facets that's happening in the black community. And I think that I'm concerned with everything, but there has to be value as a collective, as Sister was saying. How do we get to the collective? We have to get to a collective when Negroes don't want to have their egos stroked every goddamn time, or be frustrated when they're not getting media attention, when someone's getting media attention, and when our integrity is for all of us, not for individualism. And I believe individualism has created the defining dagger into where we move as a people. Are we moving as a collective, or are we moving as individuals?
That's a good question. She said all roads lead to the same location. For all of us talking here today, I'm going to say yes. But I think for all of us, we're not going to the same location. When I said some of us are trying to integrate us into white supremacy, that's real. They don't get to have mental health illness. They chosen their side. And I think the hardest thing with black people is when we try to make a square fit into a circle. Like, we know either it is what it is. Like, you know, I just feel like for some of us is liberation. For some of us is integration. You know,
Yeah.
for some of us, we can't do nothing without white people.
And
as soon as you, like, for instance, I'm not trying to be funny and not to jump subjects, but even that white couple, see, the thing with that is they felt comfortable and empowered enough to come out with their motherfucking machine gun. That's number one. Number two, those are the people who's going to help Trump stay in there. We did not know who they are because, you know, we do bullying shit too. Like, we don't even let people tell us who they are. We just going to shut your ass down. And then you wonder when they go in that booth and vote for Donald Trump, then we all sitting up there looking silly. I don't give a fuck who president. But to be honest, I don't care who the president is, because I'm still going to be a black woman at the end of the damn day. Like, I don't care who it is. None of them been my friend. I don't care what nobody say. So for my thing is like, for them to feel so empowered to do that. But the crazy part is when black people stop and give them entertainment. What would happen if y'all was marching with y'all guns? Would they have felt so empowered to come out with that?
They wouldn't have came out. They wouldn't have came out. That one, and that's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. I'm talking about for our folks doing real work. It's the different things that need to get done. Protesters. No,
I believe we need to do
we're not. This is the thing about it. We're not negating that.
Yeah.
Right. This is from people on the front lawn of this whole thing. The problem is, that's the problem. There is a difference from folks doing real work and folks that are just here just to do work to be seen, right? That becomes a problem, right? Because not everybody is doing real work. Perfect example. Negroes don't have, okay, so defund the police, right? What does that mean to you in your thought process? Does that mean to you, Queen, defund the police? That means abolish police? What does that mean to you in your mindset?
Okay. Well, for me or for her?
For you, for what you think.
Okay. I think when I hear defund the police, maybe taking away some of the, they don't need all the money that they got. That's what I think.
Okay, now
somewhere else.
No, but that's for you, right? So that's it. Oh,
you read? Okay, I'm trying to make sure we see people's
comments. Yeah, exactly. So here's my thing. The reality is, okay, that's reallocating. But for some folks, defund the police is get rid of all the police. Do you feel we can get rid of all the police right now?
No. I'm gonna say no. That's what I mean. Like, we can all be going to the same place, but not this.
We're not because
the same place. She's saying abolish the police.
Okay, now this is good. This is good. I'm for abolishing police. Okay, so what? So to the queen. I'm for abolishing the police. What does abolishment look like? And are you doing legit work right now, currently in the communities that will be more affected by abolishing the police? Because, okay, that's what I'm explaining, Queen. That's exactly what I'm saying. You have to reallocate funds. Right. That's what you have to stick with a firm definition. Because we as Black people, in theory, hell yeah, get rid of all of them. But remember, Black people, you now have to understand Black people will now be responsible with policing themselves. Oh, let me stop right there. But in a governing body that Black people don't have for ourselves, well, how do you really police yourself? Because if you police yourself without a governing body, the governing body that you're going to have policing yourself is still going to be from the same white supremacist system. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't think that folks understand that. That's why we're talking about, when we're saying these things about leadership, it's like, okay, let's get a fine definition about what does defunding police looks like. I'm like, defund the police just like you defund all the damn schools every goddamn time you want to make budget cuts. You defund them without a problem. All right, we got to cut this, got to cut that. But you don't get rid of the school, but you're going to cut every damn counselor. You're going to cut all of those activities that the young people have, right? So we have to be correct in language, and that speaks volumes, because a person will put a protest that talks about defund police. We don't want no police in our communities. Well, we need police in our communities, because I know damn well drug dealers can't be converted, but what about a pedophile? You know what I'm saying? What about a child molester? What about a mother effer that just likes to knock women out? Who gonna deal with those people? If we're not doing it in our communities right now, it's kind of hard to go ahead and create that right from a snap of the finger. You know what I'm saying? So
okay, I see that. She said where she is. I think she's in St. Louis. They have patrols in their community, and the goal is to get back to community policing. Go up to the street to call, the OG on the block to de-escalate. And I agree with that. I agree. So we grew up with that, but the bottom fell out during the crack era. So I feel like where I think
it's not there.
Yeah, I think where we fall apart at is our lack of concern for when people commit crimes against each other.
Yes.
I'm not really convinced that Black folks can really govern themselves.
Yes.
I see what we do when Black people kill each other up. We act like this shit is okay. Yeah. And I can't build no kind of anything with people like that.
No, you can't. I mean, because it would be more concern.
Black person, I can't build nothing with you.
Because because every community right now, every black community in a current state has had a volume of violence escalate since the quarantine, since the pandemic has hit, right? So eventually there's not going to be OGs. And eventually we can't just rely on those things, because there's a lot more than just violent crimes happening in our community. Now, I believe it starts from somewhere, but without any monies or funding, you cannot legitly, like after a while, the reason why community policing don't work is because niggas don't got no money. You know what I'm saying? That's why it don't work. Okay, you and I will be on the block for the next 2 weeks policing our neighborhood. But guess what? That third week, we're going to have to figure out something. Why? Because we still got to pay mortgage. We still got to pay rent. We still got all these utility bills climbing up our ass. And for good deeds, even when I did the 3 Black Chefs, right? What I said to the community, I said, well, shoot, community, what we have to do is, no, well, we see that's a.
Well, she said blacks kill black, white kill.
We know, but see, that's the thing about me. I'm accepting that.
That's what tells me that there's some kind of fantasy with you with black people, because I work all day with black people. First of all, this is California. This is not St. Louis. In Sacramento, we don't have black communities. We're mixed in with everybody else. Everybody else is getting their shit in, but black folks. Everybody else unapologetically moves for their own people, except for black folks. So I am concerned with black on black crime. I don't give a fuck about white on white crime. White people can handle that. I'm black. I'm the black woman. So I produce the nation. So I do get to say black on black, because that's a problem. And I do have faith in my people. But what I don't have is when people shit on black folks and then act like it's raining, like it's pudding. Like, no, we got a problem in our community and we need to address it, because nobody else is coming for us. Nobody is coming for black people. Nobody.
But see now,
so we got to address that.
Now I don't believe in the preface of black on black crime, and me and my sis know that. I don't, because we don't say white crime.
I'm not white crime. I don't have to say that. We shouldn't say black businesses. We shouldn't say black businesses. We shouldn't say businesses.
But what I'm saying is,
we shouldn't say black at all.
No, hold on a second. What I'm thinking, what sis is thinking, we're not negating any of the problems in our community.
Yeah, we are.
We are fully in agreement what we have to do with our community. This is not the argument of that, but what folks have to understand, there are literally not white statistics, our own statistics that we have to deal with. We don't support our own businesses. We don't support our own infrastructures, because if we did like that, I'm talking about throughout the nation, we wouldn't be suffering in the way we suffer. Our communities, we would be different. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's all things. If we talk about broken education, then why are we letting I've never understood why we letting white folks educate our people anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never understood that shit. That was like, wait a minute. But a nigga don't want to be a teacher. A nigga want to be a rapper. You know what I'm talking about? But a nigga don't want to open up a food spot. A nigga want to go to the NBA. So in reality, because niggas will look at it like, well, shit, white man can pay me all this money, I'm going to go over here first. Instead of building it from the ground up to create my business into a franchise. We don't think and operate in that lens. And I feel that a lot of that, it tapers off, going back into the leadership piece of it all. It's because leadership nowadays only feels one thing. They feel, not all, but a lot of it, what I see, the transparency of them being all about them, not being about a collective, is just how Black Lives Matter, the organization, it hijacked the hands up, don't shoot. If the queen is from St. Louis, she should be able to confirm that. They hijacked the hands up, don't shoot movement that they was pushing in Ferguson. Because it wasn't Black Lives Matter, it was hands up, don't shoot. Black Lives Matter was able to, however they did it, legitimately, bam, create that and change the whole goddamn narrative. And to me, us in principle creating this idea that our lives matter, and we still arguing that pack, like, it's like, come on, y'all, we still trying to convince them our lives matter. They know our lives matter. So that rally cry to me it's subject to almost begging. You know what I'm saying? But I believe. Hold on a second. Oh, I don't know.
Me either. I don't know either. Said something joke. We can't even talk about black people without putting other people in. That's what I mean. That's the slave shit. But this brother had a comment too, but his is so big it looked like this. So I don't know how you gonna go read it. That's a lot.
Okay.
Brother, when you do long comments like that, it's hard for me to show them that long, but we gave it a couple of minutes.
I'm only doing my part. Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I believe that it's our nation, but at the end of the day, you have to believe it's our nation. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that, for me, when we keep on having leadership draw us in a misdirection of celebrating the 4th of July, of still proclaiming Jesus was born on Christmas Day. And we have leadership that continue to perpetuate lies. I don't think that's legit. And when you have leaders that, it's okay to say, I'm not a leader. I've said that many times. Like, don't lead yourself. You know what I'm saying? I am just a vessel that creates and builds, right? But the whole part about leader, but then these folks aren't legit. Because to me, we're not all moving in the final destination, because some of us don't know what the final destination is. And I agree with you, sis. A lot more black people just want to be in a more integrated state than be in a state of separation. Because it's just like we said, with defund police. I define it in reallocating funds, because that's all we can do at this particular time. Taking away power from them, taking away their money from their base. There's no reason why a police entity should be getting 80% of the public for public safety, and that's the only thing that public safety falls under. Hell no, public safety is a whole thing. We do public safety. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. I don't believe we lack funds either as black people. It's where we spend our money at. Because didn't have no money,
and that again, like you got leaderships that when white folks tell you it was okay to celebrate Juneteenth, niggas started celebrating Juneteenth. Like, why wasn't that being celebrated, or why wasn't that being pushed as a national holiday before the right? So it's almost like we'll follow what the white folks feel that we can accept. And a lot of the times, you got to remember, a lot of the so-called leadership of today, their checks are coming from white people, all of their checks. So they're definitely not going to burn the bridge over there. They're not going to do that, because everything that we have for us, by us, is here right now. We have chosen to have the lack of trust, have a lack of integrity, and have a real resolve with our community to do the things that we really can do. I mean, we really can make this shit make sense, but we've chosen not for it to make sense. And that's our fault. That ain't nobody else's fault but ours. Have we been hoodwinked, bamboozled? Yes, we have. But for us to continuously keep on going through the same rabbit hole and get the same results, that becomes a thing for me that, I just can't feel. I just can't feel. I don't understand it. I don't operate in it. So when we talk about it, we got to talk about it for real. Let us set up ways as a collective that we can build. Let us set up ways that if we're going to be in leadership, we agree. We don't have to agree with everything, but we agree with certain principles. We agree with certain agendas. We agree with certain ideas. There got to be those concepts so we can move. But if you are one day just a leader because of a tragic moment, and you ain't did no background work, holy shit, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. There can be no leadership that has not done the principal work with. If you get thrown into it, okay, but legitimize yourself by doing some principal work, foundational work, not only with the work that people can see, but that background work that people can't see. And that's everyday training your mind, your body, and your soul to prepare yourself for what leadership looks like, if we're going to have legit leaders. Because right now, I see a whole bunch of cloud chasing. I see a bunch of keyboard soldiers. I see a bunch of folks fantasizing about being remembered, immortalized, you know, to be a part of history. And sometimes they're on the other side of history, you know, and folks that all believe they got the way to get black people, liberated. And I think that we have to define that way. Like, there has to be a smooth transition. Do we want, as a people, do we want to be liberated? And when I say liberated, exiting, you know, the American dream and creating the black dream? Or do we want to integrate again, right? Integrate again with more principle, more standards, legitly have more stroke and, you know, more clout, because we're headed for a place that I don't think, if we're not careful, we're headed for a place that is going to be very detrimental. We cannot use this moment for us to stand in a standard of just supporting the powers that be and their cycles of power that's been demonstrated over and over to us, that doesn't work for the collective. If folks don't believe that, if you believe this system works for us, then boy, we are in big time trouble. If you believe that right now, in your hearts of heart, this system works for us in its current state, what a lot of us don't have anything legitimately to be able to move us forward with, like how many of us have savings? How many of us have a business plan? How many of us have a business? You know, like how many of us have education outside of a European lens, right? How many of us are able to support our children, even outside of them becoming an adult at 18? You know, we have to think about all these different things. What kind of system do we want to display ourselves in? What do we want it to look like? How much do we believe right now, as us being black in America, are we being led in the right direction? Because for me, if we ain't talking about economic justice, if we're not talking about creating our own, I'm just saying, y'all, you know, you get a lot more done when you have your own shit. That's how they've won. They've created capitalism, and they've defined it. They've put it together. They've made it legit, and they win every time. In a pandemic, billionaires became trillionaires. How the fuck does that happen? Right? How does that happen? How does that happen? And what is leadership telling us right now? You ain't got leadership even talking about having our own political party. What are they telling us right now? So if we're not talking about these things designed to separate, to have our own, I really believe like we're up shit creek. Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you, beloved. Definitely liberated, right? And liberated, that means responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Sis, I just told him, I said, what are you trying to do?
Somebody
okay, I'm saying, it's like, we want to be integrated or we want to be liberated. And I say integrated again. That's that. How we driving it home. You know what I mean? That's something that we have to start thinking and talking about. And I don't think we really talk about that. And I think that we have to stop allowing clowns and silly ass Negroes to just show up and say, I'm a leader. You know what I'm saying? And get a bullhorn and think that all we have to do is protest, or all we have to do is sit at a table and negotiate. There is a plethora of things. And I always say, you got to go into our communities to reverse the cycle of chaos that's happening in our community. If we're not doing that, it becomes shadow boxing at this particular time.
Right on. Ditto. I just feel like if everybody just do the work at where they are, they block the 2 radius, the world would look much better. Our communities would look much better. We'd be able to come together on very basic stuff.
Yeah.
But I think when we try to do this master plan, if we can get all the black people to do that, that's when you know people ain't about their life. You know,
and just saying to the sister, you know, you stand alone. Do you know how long me and my sister stood alone? wearing her African garments, me wearing my African garments, my t-shirts, my standout, and talking the shit that we was talking, Negroes would look at us, debate us. Come on now.
It wouldn't be white people, it'd be black people.
It'd be black people.
It'd be black people.
So I'm saying, find.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying find like-minded individuals and build with them. Because now, turning around, being black for black people, unapologetically black, it's now an end thing. It's an end thing. So let's find it. And I always say, stay on your sword. If you in your heart believe you're doing the right thing, stand with it. Stand with it.
I was gonna say, you can tell when black people are suffering from mental health when they tell a black person you too black. Afrocentric. Like, who says shit like, you don't hear no Asian coming to another Asian saying you're too Asian, you're too Taiwanese, you're too Japanese, nobody does that shit with us.
Facts.
That's how you know there's a mental health there. That's a real problem. But that alone, when black people say that kind of shit to me, I be saying in my own head, in my truth, look at this thing. Like, this person really has mental health issues. I say, hey, peace, how you doing? Like, I'm real nice, I'm cool. But in my mind, I'd be like, this person has mental health issues. Because why would you come up to me and say to me that I'm too Afrocentric? Like, what? You too black. I've seen black people say that to people who are half black when they come real black. There's been black people telling mixed black people that they too black when they go all the way black. Like, who does shit like that with us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and just to read off what Khadijah said, I mean, that we do have a lot of the costumes, and that's what we have, costume soldiers. You know what I mean?
I can't even put mine on these days.
Yeah, exactly. Because and that's the thing. But again, no Jewish folk ever
going to defend
ever. But we will defend the plight of our blackness. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like
so crazy.
These things are all questionable. But when we talk about your true blackness, is never a costume that you put on when it's time and then you take off when you're not in the limelight, right? And I think that's the problem that I have with a lot of these folks that are not legit, that are very fraudulent. I see them every day, and they're nationally. It's like, nigga, you're not really who you say you are at all. And that doesn't mean you got to be perfect. I mean, niggas, I think the best leaders are flawed in some capacity, but the best leaders also have some kind of integrity, and they know that I don't have to always match a person's personality, but what I legitly have for my people is something that is greater than myself, right? Like, I want it more for my people than I want it for me. And I think that becomes a bigger issue that we really have in our community. Because some of these niggas, like, again, what we said, sis, they're not talking black, and they don't even react and relate to black. They don't. They don't.
Come in and get scared because you're going to say some shit like,
because you know what? A lot of these Negroes who are leading individuals, like let's look at the protest Negroes. They are not leading a bunch of Negroes. They're leading a bunch of misguided, confused, radical, kicked out of their own community white people. You know what I'm saying? There's not a core of Negroes that they leading, because a Negro don't buy their bullshit. Get what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then at the same time, let's look at the Negro who falls into the tragedy. Negro, you ain't never did no work a day in your life, and now a tragedy hits you, and now all of a sudden I gotta worship you as the Negro leader of the day? That shit crazy to me, right? And that's not knocking, because I feel that they have to stand up and step up, and that's probably their wake-up call, but you ain't even trying to do the work, or you're not even trying to give the respect and the accolades for other people. It's all about you. I can't believe that. And then also the Negro that don't study history and believes that everything that you've done currently is something that's never been done. You are fooling your mother effing self.
That's real talk.
Come on now. Like, I can't even take you seriously. Like, oh, really, Negro? Oh, okay. All right. And you can't be a wishy-washy Negro. You a flip-flop Negro, like one of my people say. 1 minute You hugging the police, next minute you condemning the police. And I don't mind niggas having relationships with police officers, but make it plain. Don't sit there and talk about how you ready to strike them dead, and the next thing you know, you're hugging motherfuckers, or you're working with them to the point where it's like, are you the police? You know what I'm saying? You talking about abolishing their ass, but you hand in hand taking pictures, and I have a relationship with certain police officers because of the community work I do, but I'm not laying down the line. I'm checking them about all type of different shit, and I'm not. Because it's not appropriate taking a whole bunch of pictures with them or laminating the relationship I may have with anybody to get the information I need. Let's be very serious. And any leader who's not talking about reparations, any leader who's not talking about, if they're not talking about separating our own black parties, come on now.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's like, and it's just like, it's like that's a real shit, because work has to be done on all levels. Work does not get done on the TV screen. And also, leaders don't hate on other leaders to the point where it's like, God damn, what's your problem? I mean, you have that. You have illegitimate people that are in leadership that want it to be all. They want to monopolize the game of oppressed black people. Who wants to monopolize that game? That's a sickness. You got some people that all they want to do is lead oppress. I want to lead success. I want to lead black people that want to have more than just speak about oppression and dying. Don't lead black men don't lead for black men who are dying if you don't like black men. You know what I'm saying? And the same, and don't lead for black women if you are a black man and you don't even mess with black women. You know what I'm saying? And you hate black women. Don't be the leader for that. You can't. It's not legit. You feel what I'm saying, sis?
Where is that black Gestapo? See, the part that's missing, Barry, is that when you do shit wrong, usually somebody comes to your door. People usually have that conversation with you.
They don't happen no more. Because people don't want to.
You know what I'm saying? That's what's missing.
Niggas don't want to.
People wouldn't do that if they knew somebody was going to be in their ass. They wouldn't do it.
Listen, you find more and more leadership striking down on leadership, and where we've gone wrong is I don't believe that we're in a collective of what we really need to do for our community compared to a collective of what we want to do as individuals, and that's the problem. Like the ego, the clout chasing, the want to be recognized, the want to be relevant. I mean, everybody wants to be relevant. I mean, if you have to sit there and say, I am a black leader, then you're not a leader. If you got to say that every time you announce yourself, I am the leader of the black community. Well, how the fuck are you the leader of the black community and black people don't even know who the fuck you are? Like, how? You're not even working in these communities. What you leading? Oh, you want to be at the table speaking for black people, but they never spoke to what black people really want. Oh, got it. That's crazy to me. You can't even come to communities because you're too scared to come to communities, and they will not feel how authentic you are because you're not really authentic like that. And I just don't really like that. Like, I don't want to hear Al Sharpton talk to me or talk for me anymore. It's irrelevant, his messaging. But for whatever reason, he's still out there. I don't want to hear a whole bunch of preachers talk for me because it's irrelevant, your messaging. Get what I'm saying? We got to move that thing up. And we don't need to always have young leadership. We don't always need to have man leadership. We don't need to always have woman leadership. It just has to be, if we are going to move in a right direction, it has to be, we must start agreeing on agendas, agreeing on ideologies, and come strategically planning how we are going to get in to, as the Queen had said earlier, our final destination. And until we do that, and then we got to stop hating, right?
That's so true.
It's a huge red flag. It's a huge red flag. Or I'll say this one too, Tina, or if the white media legitimizes you because they put you out there, you know what I'm saying? But you don't really move like that. And if you're a leader and you don't want to talk to nobody and you want to ostracize yourself and you want to say, poor me, but you're not really building, or you're not building with other leaders who might be more strong-minded than you, right? You're not no fucking leader. Stop with the bullshit. Stop with the shenanigans, you know? And leaders are not going to always, as we elevate our leadership, we're not going to always be at every fucking protest. If in my leadership. If I've been a leader for 10 years and I've protested for about 10 years, come on, you can't keep on expecting me to be at every protest. That's just not how a leader should move and operate. There's other ways for us to organize, right? And understand there's a difference between organization and there's a difference between mobilizing, right? And everybody wants to feel important.
In everyday consistent work, when it comes down to barriers, what you do every day of your life, what's that everyday thought process? And if you feel that you got some real issues or real hangups, please go get some fucking help. Straight up. Please go see a psychologist.
Or you come out here with that bullshit.
No, for real, like take that shit to a higher source. Because we're trying to fight our open enemy. We can't do that and heal you too at the same. We can't do it. We're at 11:59 and 59 minutes.
Yes.
And you want to stop and have a breakdown. You cannot fucking do that.
Oh, and or you want to you need to GoFundMe to go pay your rent.
Yeah, I can't.
Or you want to have GoFundMe to pay your rent. You know what I mean? The fuck we doing, man? The revolution must be funded. So if you got to have a job, it's okay. Trust me, I get it. Okay, and that's why I say, create your own shit.
Fight that good fight. I'll take that. But please don't get something because I
don't want to see it. I don't want to see it.
It really isn't, and I'm laughing because it's that serious. You know, you have to take the edge off, Tina. I just have met people that need to really like lay on the couch or get a hug from Big Mama or something. You can't bring that shit to the revolution because we gonna move.
I don't want to be disrespectful. Some might need some good loving. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
That's a whole look, man. You don't get that stress reliever, you're gonna be cussing everybody out and shit and can't get your sentences right. And
hey, some might need might need some good loving. And then it's like I say, it's just watch how you carry yourself. And like folks are always watching, you know what I'm saying? And like, trust me, some people might think like, damn, Barry, like, and I hate when folks be like, when I do something, well, that's not leadership material. Have you even looked up what leader looks like? I mean, have you legitimately, have you studied that?
Told you that don't look like Barry.
I say all type of ish. I say all type of stuff. You're a leader. Because, when I go off or go in on something, you know what I'm saying? It'd be like, you're not, that's not what a leader would like. What are you leading? You know what I'm saying? What are you leading? I'm just being honest. Like, what how are you leading? And you gonna tell me, well, I'm not supposed to say that. I'm not okay. Let me just be, you're supposed to be a leader. What? Okay. Well, who the hell? You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be. Okay. Thank you. I'm supposed to be. Well, lead your, because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you are not leading your own household or don't know how to legitimately lead yourself, you should be not leading anybody else. And I'm not saying your house got to be the cleanest of them all, because trust me, mine ain't. But in reality of it, I know how to do what I need to do, make sure I keep my business as my business, and I know how to, one, take care of mine. And I think that folks don't really understand that. We can't talk about taking care of a village when we ain't even taking care of our own household. So Black people, understand that. If you want to sit there and talk that big power shit, we have to be able. You have to be able to take care of your own shit. Niggas can't sit there and say, Barry, you take care of your daughters. Boy, I take care of my daughters better than any man could right now at this tape. Period. And I'm taking care of other niggas' kids. It's not to brag, but I'm just saying a collective village of a leadership stands by and shows this is what it looks like. Not in this way when you're around people, you can talk that good shit because you get pumped up, you get motivated. It's like, how can you really help? How can you really, besides motivation, how can you really help? What are we putting together? And that's the thing. What's our plan of attack? What's the agenda? And I think we missed the spot, because we could say abolish in a way, because I think that in all our mind frames, that's what we want to go to, but let's be smart in how we go about saying it. I'm not going to say abolish when there's no way in hell we cannot abolish police at the state and time where Black people across the nation, crime has risen. Now, we can argue that There might be some white folks doing some shooting, but we definitely know that Pookie and JoJo has been doing a lot more of that as well.
You said Pookie and JoJo?
Pookie and JoJo. So, let's just be careful with how we display, and let's stop supporting these fake fraudulent leaders, y'all. Y'all doing a bad job. You support everybody. I saw some woman the other day, baby in prison, and she over there posting like her best life is lived. I just don't understand that. Like, have some humility. Like, if my baby's in prison, I ain't posted nothing about my birthday. You wouldn't even see me. I'll be off social media. To be honest with you, I'm done. Social media over.
Why his ass is in prison? Because all of this shit go back to what you've been exposed to and what people put up with. My mom used to tell us, you can get locked up if you want to. I'm not fucking with you. You're going to get locked up. My brothers knew that was not an option. And my mom would be like, I work too goddamn hard for you to be sitting in a goddamn jail cell. So sometimes when you condone shit, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do. Well, hell, you know what to do. You want to go get your hair done. You got a goddamn hairdresser. Go get some help, y'all. Go get help. Go get some fucking help. We got all these people around here. Go put that ass to the test.
Listen, if you can go get help, if you can go get help from us with GoFundMe's for your own purposes, not for like an actual movement, you should be able to go get help. I'm just being honest though. But all right, it's that time. Yep. Oh yeah, folks, remember, support Red, Black, and Green Day. Red, Black, and Green Day. We celebrating that. 2251 Flowing Road, African Marketplace. Buy Black Saturday Part 2. Buy Black Saturday Part 2. Buy Black Saturday Part 3. Excuse me, it's not 2, 3. Buy Black Saturday. Buy Black Saturday Part 3. I'm over here getting lost in my words. And then, of course, Red, Black, and Green Day. Forget the 4th of July. Celebrate with your people. And, of course, always, if you guys want T-shirts and all those black apparel, holla at blackblueprintswithaz.com, blackblueprintswithaz.com.
Right on, Barry. All right, y'all. We're going to slow it down and get up out of here.
Peace, family.
All right, peace, y'all.